everybody, it's Shelly. So today I'm going to show you how to add details to a wet on wet wash that you have prepared for water in your landscape. So if you're ready, let's get started. Okay, so you want to start with a wet on wet wash, and you want to start out with your mountains in the distance and then just various colors horizontally across. Make sure the paper is wet before you start so that you get this bleeding effect down here. Make sure that you focus on dark colors in the foreground and then recede back with more muted colors in the background. So the first thing I'm going to do is take my palette. I have a little bit of white in here. This is a blending brush that I'm using first. And I'm going to get a little bit of white on the tip like this, and then I'm just going to kind of smooth it around and mix it into the tip here. And I'm going to kind of just scrub this background because my goal is to get these mountains to look like they are misty in the distance and a little bit blurry. Now let me let you know something. This portion down here was all done with watercolor. Now I'm coming in with acrylic, okay? And that's what I'm doing up here in these mountains is I'm just doing the misty look with acrylic. And then I'm also going to be adding acrylic down here as well. So I've switched from watercolor to acrylic now. So now that my mountains are completed, I'm going to start adding some color. You see I've got these blues and greens kind of mixed in here. I'm just going to do a combination of all of these. And what I'm going to do is just come in with some of these colors in blocks. My goal is to not cover up all of this beautiful blending of colors that I've got. Don't cover it up with the acrylic, but actually accentuate it with the acrylic is the goal. So what you can do with acrylics in a painting is similar to what you can do with watercolors if you water them down. And so I'm making them a little bit transparent instead of real thick like they are supposed to be, thick and opaque. I'm making them a little bit transparent so that you see a little bit of that watercolor underneath and then the acrylic over the top. And then when we're finished, we're gonna add white to these waves. So just continue kind of working with blues and greens in here and just keep on kind of mixing and blending. But again, I'll mention this a second time. Make sure that you are not covering up all of these beautiful watercolor colors that you have in the background. That's not what we want to do, is cover everything up. Otherwise, why did we do the watercolor in the first place if we cover it up, right? And don't forget that your darker colors should be down here, which is in the foreground. And then all of your lighter colors should be in the background. So you kind of want it to look as if, you know, you've got some depth here. And if you don't do the darker in the front and the lighter in the background, then it is not going to have any depth at all. So what I'm doing here is I'm coming in with white, and then I want you to see what I'm doing because I want to really lighten this area up, and I'm going to continue with my strokes back and forth. And I'm just going to kind of lighten that up a little bit and blend it across so that I get some real pretty transparency back in here with white. Just brush very softly across the surface. Okay, I'm gonna put it a little bit closer so you can see what I'm doing. I want to show you one more time what I'm doing. I'm taking white on the tip of my brush and I'm just wisping it back and forth and keep smoothing until it kind of gets a little bit transparent and it starts to blend, but I don't want it pitch white. I mean, I don't want it this white, okay? I just want a little bit of blending and smoothing horizontally down here. So now that I've done all of my, white in the background, blending and mixing, now I'm ready for this brush. It's a really fine brush. And I'm going to dip it into some white, and I'm going to start adding some really fine details down here. So I will show you how to do that next. Okay, so I've zoomed the camera in so you can see. What I'm going to start doing is defining some of these waves. I'll just start right here in the middle. How about that? And I'm just going to start defining some waves and adding white to the top of these waves, and then just add some wisps to it. So there's my first white addition. Can you see how just that brought that wave forward already, right? So you want your brush to have a little bit of water in it, but just loaded with paint, really, And you just want, see how I'm not going straight across? I'm kind of, making my waves look more realistic, right? They're not straight horizontally. They're a little bit wavy, aren't they? That's why they call them waves, right? So just make sure that they are not straight. The one thing that you need to remember too is these waves back here are far away from us. These waves up here are definitely closer. So when you are applying the paint to these waves, you can actually add more white and make them thicker, similar to this. Whereas if they're in the background, you want the lines to be very, very, very small. That's why I'm using. So what I'm focusing on right here is just teeny tiny little wisps of color way back here in the distance. That might give me some issues, but I have a fix for that. I can show you what to do here in a minute. But just teeny tiny little wisps in the background is what I need to do. And now I can take my blender brush and add a teeny tiny bit of white, and I can just kind of go across there. See how I'm going to fix this area? And I'm just going to mute it a little bit. This makes the background a little bit fuzzy, which is what I want, because remember, I'm creating a sense of depth with this piece, right? I'm going to move it back so you can see it. I want it to look like it's going back into space. That's what we call depth in art. So this is definitely a work in progress, but thanks so much for joining me today. I hope you learned tons of new information about water and creating depth and blending and wisping colors, and I just hope that you try it and find success.